The most recent DBD dev stream not only was a disaster class when it comes to audio, but they gave us a pretty grim war outlook on the future 6 months of DBD. I really hope you laughed at that joke. We have things coming up relatively recent to DBD, things that are not going to be coming for a while that need to be happening now or should have been happening since the diminishing returns change or update, gameplay change, whatever it is, and how they pretty much are going to be balancing the game and changing things in the game when it comes to mid-chapter versus chapter releases. Also, they gave an update on the Grim War, but I don't really care. So what's coming up recently with Killer and Survivor, we have a few perks. Killer perks like Colubrine, Save the Best for Last, and A Nurse's Calling is getting buffed. Colubrine on its seconds, I think it got plus 20 seconds, I think is what they said. A Nurse's Calling now no longer matters what health state you're in. If you're healing, you're able to be seen. And Save the Best for Last, but go figure, they did not put a figure to it, so it could be half of a token, half of a percent more, and you know, that's it. I honestly don't know. I'm losing faith in this company, man. As far as Survivor goes, there are some buffs going to their side. As far as perks, main one, in my opinion, being Adrenaline. I think that's a perk that I used to always use when I played Survivor all the time, so I think it could become good. As far as the other ones, I don't really care all that much, but they're getting some buffs, so I'm glad it's going both ways, and we're not just leaning towards one side over the other. I'm looking at you, Palette Density. Now, as far as killer nerfs to perks, there are a couple that are definitely going to be interesting. They called them debuffs, by the way, which who doesn't call them nerfs? I thought that was a little weird. But we have Nowhere to Hide, which now is 18 meters instead of 24. Colorophobia, which is 50% now down to 30% on healing speed. And Hex Throw of the Hunt, they said the percentage, but honestly, I don't remember. Also, I just want to put this in here real quick before we hop into the Survivor debuffs. I say debuffs. I'm looking at it. It's freaking nerf, man. It's not called debuffs. What are we talking about? I think her name's Mandy, if I'm not mistaken. During the dev stream, pretty much like came right out and said it that claustrophobia Colorophobia is getting nerfed because of the slugging. And I just want to say real quick, as a killer main, sometimes you gotta slug, man, because behavior making this game feel like impossible, and all you're doing, they're just trying to push the game to a 12 hook state. That's what it feels like. So this is a direct, it felt like the devs themselves have gone against Colorophobia. We're like, yeah, this thing needs to go down, because let's be real, they're all Survivor mains, dude, but I'll put that to the side, okay? For Survivor, we're actually getting nerfs to some perks that need them, and one of them is unfortunately not much of a nerf. So, Sprint Burst now loses a second off of it. I think it's 3 seconds, now down to 2 seconds. It's such a free adrenaline perk that I think it just makes sense that it goes down a little bit, because obviously the usage is probably the highest in the game, or if not one of the highest. Deliverance, when I saw this pop up on the screen, I was like, dude, yes, Deli's getting changed. Well, I think they doubled the time it was for broken, or added like 30 seconds. I can't quite remember. But for the most part, if you're playing Deli, that means Decisive Strike is probably attached to it, which then means that it's just still going to be used in an aggressive way that it is already. Now, that's not every single time, so, I mean, it is technically a nerf, but I don't think it's doing exactly what they want to do. And Vigil. Vigil should just be reworked, gutted, something. The fact it's still in the game, and the fact it affects killer power, Freddy's hinder snare, for example, it affects that, really pisses me off. If it was something is it didn't affect killer, hindered, haste, whatever it may be, I wouldn't hate the perk, maybe with a small numerical change as well. So that one's just gonna have to sit and wait, but that's what we have as far as buffs and nerfs. Kind of upset there's not more. Why? Well, change a couple numbers on a freaking perk, and then, you know, you have a bunch. But there's going to be some of that later on. We'll get to it. And as far as I'm aware, that is all the changes coming to DBD relatively soon. Like I said, I don't know if this is attached to the PTB. I watched this yesterday. I meant to record yesterday right after the stream. I actually had time, and then I fell asleep. So I don't quite remember all the stream. I had a lot of it fresh on my mind and forgot to take notes on my phone like I typically do. And this is obviously not scripted. So future changes, meaning next release, meaning if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be 6 months away. I want to let you know we are in July. This is going to be roughly 6 months from now. So, no killer update. That's awesome. They actually even said during this that Blight was supposed to get an additional change to his kit some way or another. I don't quite know how. They didn't go into detail. But that was the only killer. The fact that they only named Blight was pretty upsetting, considering how many bad and mid-tier killers we have, especially Now, like, if the pallet density was what it was before it got freaking buffed to oblivion, I would be more inclined to be okay with this. But now with pallet density and a lot of things that the survivors have been getting, I would like some balancing towards the killer side, so we don't have to do, survivor got an update, killer an update. If we're just like the thing is, the real thing is, behavior is just so slow to make changes. It all comes obviously post Operation Health. Ever since then, it's just been honestly pretty trash. The company's just moving incredibly slow. They do have some live design updates, but we'll get there when we get there, as far as like chapter, mid-chapter, whatever it may be. But so no new killer updates, which is pretty brutal. Over 45 perks being changed. And when I initially saw this, I was like, oh, dude, 45 perks each side, which seems unrealistic, but that's what my brain went to. And then the next one popped up or whatever it was, and it was close to even between killer and survivor. So 23 to 22, 20 to 25 per, each side, whatever it may be, whatever the split is. I don't necessarily love, because the fact of they did not specify if that's going to include general perks, because they say the general perks are getting no debuffs, some are being reworked from the ground up and modernizing for the current state of the game. Well, if those general perks then are into that 45 perks, that means instead of, I don't know, let's say 20 perks, let's just say killer gets 20, survivor gets 25. Killer doesn't get 20 perks that people actually use that aren't, common. Now, obviously, with Pinhead leaving and some other killers leaving, those become general. So they are getting more usage than they were. But I don't like the fact of it wasn't specified if the general perks were included in that 45 perk limit. Now, the tab is not underneath that tab, so I'm not quite sure. So I'll have to wait to see. So if it's 45 total perks and then general perks on top of that are getting changed, I'm a little bit more inclined to actually really like this. But it just depends if the general perks are considered to be in that 45 perk range or not. I'm really hoping that it's not. As well as it says split between general perk updates and diminishing return updates. So pretty much it's going to be, whoa, real life time. Wait, does that mean out of the, let's say killer gets 20 perks, 10 general perks or whatever, and then 10 diminishing return related perk updates? Okay, well, that's not really meta changing. I think that might be, I might just be, debunked my own thing in real time. I don't know. We'll have to see. Not a real big fan. Diminishing return changes. It doesn't really specify what goes where and what goes with what, if that makes any sense. So honestly, we'll just have to wait and see for that one. I'm hoping that we get something a little bit better than what my brain is telling me. I hope it's more sectioned off on what gets changed from 45 perks plus general perks plus diminishing return related perks. I think that would be really nice. I really need a meta shakeup in this game. It's super stale. I feel like on all sides. I mean, it's time. I feel like this game, I feel like everybody outside of the 2v8 audience is ready for this game. Something needs to change, and behavior unfortunately just super slow. Now, as far as live design updates, I know that's technically a live design update as well as the first one, but as far as chapter to mid-chapter, what will be done, what won't be done, they finally really clarified exactly what it's going to be. For chapter, dependent on emergency needs, so I assume that might be kill switching, if they realize that cross-examination was too freaking bonkers and they need to change that. Which, by the way, dude, what are we doing? That took a couple weeks to do as well, to get rid of. That perk was bonkies, and now it's useless. Just in a drop of a hat, snap of a finger, dude, it become busted to no one's going to use it, just like that, and that's just how DBD balances things. Small in scale as far as changes as needed, high-risk concerns, quality of life changes. So one of those being, in my opinion, the cross-examination. In future updates, hopefully, would be to where it would go live with the actual chapter itself, as far as the perk change, not, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks later, post release of the new survivor with that perk. For example, that's obviously a certain situation, but hopefully that is what's going to happen. As far as chapter, the last thing, not intended to shake up meta, I'm not a fan of, dude. The main reason, obviously, why they're saying this is because of the Cresu update, but the issue is they didn't shake up the meta. They tried to shake up the way the entire game was played, and I think there's a difference between meta shakeup and entire gameplay mechanic shift because of the anti-slug, anti-camp, anti-tunnel perk changes. I think that's when some killers got changed as well, plus a new chapter. I think that was the main issue. They did way too much, and they didn't get the feedback that they wanted from Cresu, But I mean, those are one of those things that is obviously, very obviously meant for a mid-chapter update. But instead, they put it and lumped it with a Kresu update that wasn't well received because the killer wasn't all that good or engaging. Well, very good killer off release. Wasn't very engaging or honestly all that fun to play. They just, made it real gory and said, swipe their hands, call it a day. But that's kind of it as far as chapter. Now, as far as mid-chapter, bigger in scale. So if we have to wait 3 months for a mid-chapter, also I have not looked at my camera at all, I don't think. If we have to wait 3 months for a mid-chapter, the bigger in scale, if it's a 2-second change to Ghostface power cooldown, I'm going to lose my mind. I think that these are good ideas. It's just the company that's doing them. When was the last time we had faith in this company? Like so many things that are coming, like for example, a 1v1 mode. That's awesome. When is it coming? Who knows? Will it be delayed? Probably. These sort of things that you would expect some competence out of a company, and it just takes forever to do. Now, I'm not coming at the devs per se. I don't know if it's a dev problem, behavior problem, if that's just the way they want to have their updates and game changes rolled out, but they take forever, dude. This is a huge company. I don't think it should really be taking that long. I wish they had some more frequent updates as far as game modes. Obviously, we're getting a community browser as well. Eventually, all these things are eventually. So it's like up to 6 months when this huge perk change and everything. For 6 months, for the rest of the year, outside of chapters, we have nothing as far as the game. And a new chapter comes out, everybody likes it for a few weeks, and then everybody stops playing it because the game itself is not changed. And the game itself is in a horrible state as far as medkits and gen progress and pallet density. And as a Survivor, I'm sure people are having a freaking blast. Oh, not to forget to mention that the anniversary event was an absolute, nice word, flop. It was a disaster class, dude. So there's a lot of things. As far as mid-chapter as well, I'll go ahead and get back into it. Primarily killer and perk balance, I think, is a good idea. The only problem is I'm worried that they didn't say perk adjustments as far as like maybe needing buffs or nerfs. They said balance, as in like, okay, well, killers are now at a 52% kill rate. Let's drop them down to 48 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the killer role at the moment is losing its lethality. Like, you are a killer in a 1v4 match. You should feel powerful, not the survivors, just because they have pallet after pallet and popping gens in your face and having every resource possible with perks and things that feel like unencounterable unless you run certain things and you just hope that the lobby you're going against are running those certain things. I'm not going to go into examples, but Sprint Burst versus Jason's Sauna Rock versus if you get 4 people using Lithe and you use Sauna Rock, then dude, you're absolutely cooking. Like, it's so game dependent. So I'm kind of worried about that because they said balance and not update or buffs and nerfs or whatever. The fact they use the word balance has me concerned. Next, expected to impact meta. When was the last time we had a meta shakeup? I mean, like, genuinely, like, yeah, hex perks are really good right now because of Hex Throw the Hunt, but that's only for killers that can actually patrol and guard the totems themselves. If you don't have mobility, if you don't have a screen mechanic like Jason, let's say, whatever it may be, you're not really going to be able to patrol the totems like you really should be able to. The meta build is only on certain killers, and those certain killers can patrol really well. So if they can patrol that well, more than likely they're one of the better killers in the game. So the actual true meta build for killers not even really pertaining to the middle to lower tier killers. That's a whole thing. I'll just stop it right there. Focus on aspects of gameplay, which I'm glad they did show. They did talk about it a little bit as far as I remember, but they're pretty much just saying that the gameplay itself will be mid-chapter related. So, for example, that's the anti-camp, anti-slug, anti-tunnel, whatever it may be. My main problem with all this is between chapter and mid-chapter, there's got to be something. And specifically, this next mid-chapter has to be something huge. Obviously it is. It has perk changes, diminishing returns related changes, which, I mean, how long ago was diminishing returns at this point? The problem is no killers are being changed in the next mid-chapter. So there's no new killer going from C tier to maybe top of B or low of A. There's no changing the pick rate of the killers because the no killers are being changed. It's all just perks related now. And so now they're all focusing on perks, but putting all their focus on perks, no killers are being changed. But I think that's because they waited so long to do all of this for whatever reason it may be that they can't do it, you know, coexistingly. They can't do one and the other. They can only just do one, which is pretty brutal. Some other things, the art looks awesome. I mean, look, I'll dog on behavior for the game itself, but the art team are simply amazing. I feel like I don't have proper words to really give them their kudos, their flowers, their literally anything, because the art they create is simply awesome, dude. And that's any art if it's in DBD related. If it's DBD related, they absolutely crush it, dude. So to them, I tip my hat. But yeah, that's it for me, I think. It's another dev stream where pretty much nothing happened, and then they talked about gameplay changes a little bit, and then they talked forever about the Grimoire. But I'm being honest, like, it's kind of hard to gauge if you're going to like it or not, whether, you know, based off the power and stuff. Like I said, the old lady being in the game, we finally have one. It's really cool. She looks really cool, too. But I'm not really all that pumped about the Grimoire gameplay itself. I think it's just a whole bunch of waiting. That's the problem, is that not only do we have to wait 6 months, it's behavior, so we have to put all our eggs in the basket that they're gonna do good with the changes. Dude, that's terrifying, no? We have to believe that behavior are gonna be the ones to pull us out of this sludge rut of gameplay. That you're putting your eggs in a basket. I don't know if I would put mine in my opinion. But let me know down below. Did you watch the dev stream? Did you appreciate the way they approached it, the Grimoire, the art, which is sick, and anything like that? Let me know down below. I am Jay, and I'll see you on the next one. Deuces.